Okay, wait, don't skip to your segments yet. The school year has started already for me, so if I keep this up as a monthly series, I'm gonna start missing some movies, so before we get into episode 7, let me lay down some new rules for how I'm gonna choose what movie makes it in. I'll be watching and reviewing these films when I have the time, but since I only have a month, I might miss a few, so if you follow these rules, you'll probably be the first films to watch unless everyone follows them. Number 1, if you've never made a comment or have appeared in any of these videos, you'll be first at the top of my priorities. Number 2, if you guys actually engage with the video and we can have a little discussion about it, or if you've watched any of these movies before and want to talk about it, that counts too. If you do either of these, I'll put your next movie higher on my priorities. And lastly, 3, whoever comments the fastest. Those are going to be the 3 rules from now on. If I have time, everyone will make it in, but I can't guarantee that will happen every time. If you don't get in, just try again. If you don't know how this series works, these movies were taken from comments in episode 6 of MNA, and if you want the chance for me to review or suggestion next episode, you can comment for it to be in episode 8. Okay, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say in the intro. Let's get into episode 7. Alright, Order for 5677 gave me Minority Report. Minority Report is a sci-fi film where through psychics the police are able to tell and predict when murders are about to happen. Tom Cruise, the leader of this task force, is forced to run and discover the sinister past of the organization he works for once psychics discover that he will murder someone. I've been meaning to watch Minority Report for a while, ever since I saw the Schaefer-less Spielberg ranking a couple years ago. Just based on the idea alone, I knew I had to check this out because this is maybe one of the coolest concepts for a film I've seen in a while. Minority Report takes this great idea and just runs with it, letting us explore the moral questions around this power and the exploitation used through it. I love how Minority Report opens. We basically get a full 20 to 30 minute sequence of an average day for this organization. The police force find out a crime is going to happen and they have to pinpoint where it's going to be committed so they can stop the killer, as we slowly see the motivations for this killer build up. I love how they never explain what they're doing until they catch the killer. If you don't know the premise, it works really well as a great way to sell you on this movie. And even if you do know the premise, this still works as a great opener. The way they have to shift through flashes of the future to look for location details is so cool. It's like GeoGuessr, kinda. Anyways, these first 30 minutes were fantastic, but I was a little worried how they were gonna handle the film once Tom Cruise got accused of murder. I do think it took a little to get used to, and nothing in this movie ever gets close to that incredible initial concept, but for the most part, the sci-fi world is still great. The directing here is so good. Every idea is executed and presented so well. It's crazy you can pick up so much on this world without it ever being explained to you. For characters, we only have 2 I really want to talk about. Tom Cruise is very good. His arc around the loss in his life and him struggling to cope with it is a really good struggle and a strong story arc to follow. I do think some of the initial exposition around Tom Cruise was annoying, but as the film went on, his story became a lot more gripping due to the great directing. I love how we get slow drops of what actually happened to him. I just wish this story was handled like the rest of the film and done at a slower pace with a small amount of exposition. The other main character is this little petty detective guy trying to catch Tom Cruise. He's just a really funny character. Him poking at Tom Cruise's divorced wife is so good. The fact he's introduced by everyone as a twink is probably unintentional, but the perfect way to introduce this guy. Lastly, the best part of Minority Report is definitely the buildup of John Crow. I don't want to talk about this very much for spoilers' sake, but man, the payoff for all of this was so worth it. The slow buildup of this event over 36 hours feels like it shouldn't work, but by the end it fits in perfectly with Tom Cruise's character. Anyways, one of my little issues with Minority Report is definitely its predictability. I saw most of this coming from a mile away, but what really shocked me was that ending twist. This kind of nullified my original issue because that twist really made up for how predictable the rest of Minority Report was. That being said, the ending for me is a little lackluster. It just didn't have the same impact as the rest of the movie. Also, why is Tom Cruise not half blind the entire film? They had the setup, why did they not execute it? Anyways, this is just such a well thought out movie. Steven Spielberg just got a great script and directed it perfectly. It's him at the top of his game and one of his best movies. I'm going to give Minority Report a low 9 out of 10. Moving on. Alright, Very Sad Dinosaur gave me Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I'm gonna be honest, I've been a little burnt out from Godzilla films recently, so this review probably will be pretty quick. In Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, Godzilla comes back, so the people of Japan decide to fund and create their own Godzilla off the original Godzilla's bones. This machine obviously being Mechagodzilla. I think the action is quite good, and the way Mechagodzilla works and attacks is decent. I also like the general new designs for Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. They both look quite new and modernized. This movie also takes a lot from the original Godzilla in an interesting way. It was cool seeing the bones of the original Godzilla and how they use these bones to fuse with Mechagodzilla. The human plots are not very good. I think pretty much all of the human characters are boring. The scientists and pilot are fine, but I still don't think they're very compelling. Mechagodzilla kinda sucks at his job here. Like, I think Mechagodzilla going rogue causes far more issues than Godzilla, who just kinda stands around the whole movie. None of this is super gripping, and the government doesn't even get a cool way to take down Godzilla this time. I guess the beam that Mechagodzilla uses counts, but it doesn't even work in the end, so there's no real point. It's whatever. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla gets a solid 5 out of 10. Moving on. Alright, Forsaken Lands 92 gave me Codefish. Codefish follows a fish store owner and his broken family. One day he meets a man who offers a business relationship with him that will give him a big boost in money and maybe fix his broken family. Barada, or the silly guy as I wrote in my notes, is the best character in the entire film. Minor spoilers if you care, but I'm pretty sure everyone saw this coming off the film itself and all the marketing, but this guy is not a very good person. I won't say what he does because that's an actual spoiler, but all you need to know is that he's a bad guy and he's great. For one, I just love Denton's performance of him and how over the top and goofy he is. I love the detail that once he kind of drops the mask and starts being evil, he keeps some of that goofy charm, but in a much more insane, crazy manner. You always feel on edge whenever he's on screen because it feels like he's about to do something messed up due to the great performance and great directing. The scene with the silly guy and the main character's wife is really good. The gaslighting and slow buildup of his motivation is awesome. He should be an evil, unlikable character, but I still kind of love him. He's so petty and malicious for no reason. It feels like multiple things he does aren't for a greater scheme or plan, but just because he finds it funny. I think I really like this character because it really reminded me of Terrence Fletcher from Whiplash, an abusing gaslighter that can switch up at any moment, and a character we only get slow drops of since they have a high guard around their actual feelings. Silly guy maybe has like 2 scenes where he drops his guard down the entire film, and both are about his father. Those scenes are great and really show how he ended up how he is, but I also love some of the really subtle details, like how he claims he's the father of our main character, most likely implying he's doing all of this partially so he can feel like he's the one in power in the relationship. I do think the eventual twist of his plan like an hour in was a bit underwhelming from what I thought it was going to be, but I think the direction they went with was still really great. For more characters, Silly Guy's wife is pretty great. She's definitely part of a bigger issue being some of the misogyny in this film, which is obviously not good, but she's still a fun character that has some really weird motivations here and there. The main character's wife and daughter are both good and play an incredible role in the ending, and my favorite character in the whole movie just might be the personal driver they have. I just really like him as a character. He's so funny and way too quirky for a movie this dark. I love how he gets introduced after the movie gets really messed up, and he just seems to be completely unaware of what he's part of. I just really like how they added in such a goofy character to such a serious movie. He's my favorite guy. I really like him. I can't talk about the main character a ton for spoiler reasons, but he's also amazing. The planetarium metaphor is great, and that opening title card with it was insane. I just love how this guy desperately tries to relive the best moments of his life over and over again, only to realize he can't go back. The reuse of him crying at the lake is such a beautiful way to show he's still good at heart. The dinner scenes at the start and end reflect his change in morals. There is just so much incredible symbolism and repetition during this movie to show his change in character. And those last 30 minutes are just incredible. Everything just gets cranked up to 11 for the most tense, insane, brutal scenes. I think the choice of making this film so horny really culminates here, having some absolutely disgusting moments that take previous sex scenes and turn them into gross, overly personal moments that are so hard to watch. The violence gets cranked up, the editing and score gets more intense. It's a seriously insane watch. I've seen some negative reviews about how the ending for this film makes it seem like the message is that abuse works, but like, no. The ending for this movie with the daughter clearly goes against that message. I'm really trying not to spoil here, but Silly Guy's motivation and gaslighting ends up not working by the end. The push for the next generation to change doesn't work. The evil actions this guy has committed undoes everything he was trying in the first place, causing the family to fall apart even further. Damn, Codefish was good. One of the best movies I've genuinely seen in a while. I've been thinking about watching Love Exposure for a while, but this really sold me on it. Incredible directing, awesome performances, a great score, and a really interesting message. It's extremely dark, so I recommend maybe not watching this one, but if you think you can handle it, don't read anything going in. I'm gonna give Codefish a solid 9 out of 10. Alright, Dietem gave me Godzilla King of Monsters. This is a sequel to Godzilla 2014 and is the third movie in the ongoing American MonsterVerse franchise. The only movie I've seen from the MonsterVerse movies was Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire last year. It was alright. I honestly don't remember a ton from it, but it looked nice and was pretty fun. What we got out of Godzilla from King of Monsters is really good. The first reveal of him swimming around is a great moment, and the general way they visualize Godzilla is really cool. He's also very brutal here. He just chomps off heads. In general, a ton of monsters just straight up kill people, which was pretty bold. Ghidorah is a good villain. The alpha concept is pretty dumb, but the idea of this ancient rivalry between Godzilla and Ghidorah was pretty cool since it ties into the original movies. Godzilla vs. Ghidorah was a pretty cool fight. Mothra showing up was a cool moment, and Red Godzilla looks really nice. I think for the most part, the monster stuff is whatever, but whenever it's specifically on the main 3 monsters, Godzilla, Ghidorah, and Mothra, it's quite good. The real issue is that the amount of screen time these 3 characters have is maybe like 10% of the movie, because this film is barely on Godzilla. Yes, he is the obvious focus, but there's less actual Godzilla and way more human stuff. And I've thought about it, but nah, this is still the worst human plot in any Godzilla movie, and it isn't even close. I think it's the fact that there's so many humans, and they're all so underdeveloped and uninteresting. The device that controls the monsters is dumb, the plot on tracking the monsters is lame. Honestly, everything around following these monsters is so lame, it really ruins so many action scenes, especially the ending. I really do not need humans to exposition dump on what's happening on screen. I get it, I'm watching what's happening. Maybe it's because most Godzilla films are in Japanese, but the directing and acting here from pretty much everyone is completely lifeless. None of these are real people, they are actual robots. I couldn't feel any emotion ever. The mom is a horrible character. Her motivation to save the world by working with legit terrorists is so ridiculous, and her character arc is extremely underdeveloped and is somehow something that comes out of nowhere and extremely predictable. And oh my god, Millie Bobby Brown is bad here. She does a frankly horrible job, and her general role in the film's narrative is often pointless. There's maybe one good moment in this entire human plot, and it's the one scene where the main character realizes in order to save the world, he has to revive the thing that killed his son. That was a good talk. Everything else here is just so soulless. They attempt jokes, but they're always extremely botched and feel purposely stiff. It's like they were originally in the script, but the director wanted a serious tone, so he just made every actor deliver them in the most flat, boring way possible. Pretty much everything related to the humans, and in general, everything that isn't on Godzilla, Mothra, or Ghidorah is really bad. While this does have some good moments, I really couldn't stand a lot of this. Godzilla King of Monsters is gonna get a high 3 out of 10. Moving on. Alright, Surfstorm gave me the Dark Crystal. Literally the only thing I know about this was an Odd Ones Out video I saw like 5 years ago, and I have some vague memories of it. Gotta get out of the way, but this movie looks really good. The lack of CGI at the start makes it feel timeless. The puppets are so clean and blended into the world so well. I also like how this movie doesn't often try to impress you with its visuals. This is a pretty ugly, dry film, and I think that was a cool choice to sell the destroyed apocalypse-like world. I also like the skit scenes a bunch. They fit the dark tone really well and have some pretty brutal scenes. Like they torture babies to live longer. They're pretty evil and are pretty fun villains. I really like their designs. Unfortunately, the narrative and our main characters aren't that great. The main character mostly just asks questions the entire film and just kind of gains confidence at some point for some reason. The girl named after Light from Death Note isn't that much better. She kind of does nothing, and her relationship with the main character is pretty flat. I do really like the Screaming Dog though, best character in the movie. To summarize my thoughts, I think this is a really good looking film that doesn't really work as a narrative. I'm gonna give the Dark Crystal a high 6 out of 10. Here's the ranking. Number 5, Godzilla King of Monsters. Number 4, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Number 3, The Dark Crystal. Number 2, Minority Report. And number 1, Coldfish. If you guys skip the intro or whatever, make sure to watch it because I lay down some important rules. Okay, yeah, I'll see you in a month for episode 8. If you've noticed, I'm taking a new approach to these thumbnails and titles from MNA, so they hopefully do better. I still have motivation to continue, but regardless, this series is staying the same and I still like doing them. Thanks for watching, and this is an epic outro.